I'm your host, GT Campanile, joined by Srey Kalyani and Kevin Price.
How you
Thank you for
doing?
joining us. Today we're discussing the current Phoenix real estate market. And we typically revisit the current state of affairs here in the Phoenix real estate market once a quarter and just kind of give our viewers and subscribers an assessment of the landscape, whether you're a buyer, a seller, or you're just interested in the general investment landscape down here. And so you guys are both realtors. You guys are in the market, in the trenches right now. What's the current state of affairs versus, say, when we last discussed this in the spring?
I wasn't here in the spring, so I wasn't sure what you guys discussed.
Well, I think in the spring there was a lot of uncertainty still, and if I remember right, prices hadn't gone down. Prices were still were climbing, but they were slowing. The rate of increase was slowing, and I think there was a little bit of optimism that there might be a spring rush and things would start to maybe pick up a little bit, even though the interest rates were still kind of putting the lid on volume, and people were still unsure, at least from the finance side. But investors were still coming. People were still thinking about buying. I feel that the landscape has changed quite a bit, meaning that there's now a whole lot more uncertainty. The jobs picture has changed. There's layoffs being announced in the news, and people are really stepping back to assess things. There are still buyers and sellers out there, obviously doing business as usual, but I think when you talk about that, maybe that first-time home buyer or the folks that are thinking about moving up, and then you can switch to the seller side and say, are people willing to move because will they be able to find something to replace their home? Those are the questions I think that are kind of floating around right now. What do you think is happening this summer?
Right now everything is, to me, it's following the normal seasonal patterns that we're in. In March, the average cumulative days on market for a closed listing, we were at 65.9 days, so 66 days. That was in March. And so far through June, we're at 62 days. So they are slowly moving faster, but you're still between that 60 and 90-day range. Since the spring, the sales also per month have gone up. In February, we have gone up about 1,500 since February. February we had 5,300 closed transactions, and last month in May we had 7,050. So people are still buying, people are still selling, definitely going up, and the pricing is still increasing. The price per square foot right now we're around $299 throughout the whole Phoenix area, and just a few months ago we were at $296. So everything is still up and up.
Yeah, that's an increase across the board.
Yeah.
So I know in the spring, I think the number was in around 6,800. Like April 2024, we had 6,849 home sales, and the median home price was 450,000. I think that's a high water mark there, isn't it, Kevin, for the median home price?
It's really hard to say because the problem that everybody's battling is between the interest rates. Life in general is just expensive, and then the lack of the inventory. So that's keeping these prices high, and people are still sitting on these homes that have a lot of equity in them. So they have that ability to afford a higher priced home through the higher down payment. They can have buying lower interest rate, paying for the points, that sort of stuff. And then also the new home builders are still crushing it. I get emails weekly offering sub 5% interest rates. Mm-hmm. And they're offering closing assistance. They're offering upgrade concessions. So it's really, really tough for your average everyday home buyer.
I see it's more of investor now are coming out.
Yeah.
So it seems like the first time home buyer are taking a back seat, and I'm getting more
Mhm.
investor coming out, or those that already have a couple homes and they're ready to, they're just renting it out and then just upgrading and then just picking it up. And they're not even like a professional investor. They're just like, normal you and I, and they're seeing the opportunity. They have money sitting on the side, and it looks like they've been waiting for it.
Mhm.
So I see a lot of them are coming
Yeah,
um,
especially
picking up.
with that equity that they have in their homes that they've
Hmm.
been sitting on for several years. There are people that they want to move.
Hmm.
They don't want to sacrifice that 2, 3, low 4% rate for a 7% interest rate. Their buying power goes way down, and so if they have the ability to pull out that equity and then buy just a rental property, investment property, obviously they don't have to have something that's top of the line. They can be less picky with location and the appearance and how much work it's going to take.
Well, and also with the investor, they really don't care about the interest rate, right? Because they're not really paying for it. The renter is paying for it. So yeah, you have to have that 25% down, and your lease have to cover the mortgage, and a lot of them do because some of these people are not buying homes, so of course they're willing to rent the high price, and the investor are out there just picking these bad boy up and not, interest rate is not bothering them at all.
Right, like you said, the renter is the one paying for that. That
Hmm.
interest rate is being baked into the rental price.
Yep, yep. So I think
Uh,
that's what we're seeing. It's almost like the normal family is not coming out. It's the
mhm.
investors,
Right,
a newbie, amateur investors are coming out.
they're trying their hand. They got to see what they can do about it. For the last 30 days, the median sales price is $452,000. So just the last 30 days, that's in the Phoenix area. So,
So
um,
if the median, you said 452, it's gone
yeah,
up a little bit since spring then.
right.
And the average sales price, I don't know if you have the current numbers on that, but this
Yeah.
is from April, was about 606,000, meaning that there's more people buying at that lower range, but there's some numbers that are kind of on the average at least skewing that up, right? So 605,000 is the average.
Okay.
Is
Right.
that
Oh, go ahead.
is what is the current average? What is June number for average?
Well, right now I'm trying to find that. I do see that the sales prices are actually about 97% of the listing price. So they're still not getting what they're asking for, which that's about, I think, 50% of the time you're giving back anywhere between $8,000 to $12,000 as concessions when you're the seller. And that's just typical anyways.
So I actually pulled up 24-hour data from just the Phoenix area though. So last night there's 688 homes that is just put on the market. So brand new
Goodness.
listing. Yeah. So 600. So I mean, as you can see, that's just 24 hours. So there are houses being put on the market, brand new listing. Let's see here, and there's 117 that is under contract or waiting to close. Remember, this is 24 hours. Uh, and out of that, only 17 of those homes are being contingent on the buyer to sell. I mean, yeah, on the buyer to sell their home. So they
Okay.
are selling their home and upgrading to new home, but it's only 17 that are contingents on that. And last night, 354 house closed, funded, and recorded. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
yeah.
Right now, I'm able to see for as of today, the latest data that we have from last night, the median sales price in all of Phoenix is 464,995.
At
Mm-hmm.
the 464,000. That's the
Yeah, that's
median.
that's
Okay.
Yep, that's what I have
updated.
about
Yep.
490. I have about 490.
And what is the
Through
average for June?
the average sales price.
So that means there's more people that are buying at that lower end, right? So if the average is higher than the
Yeah.
median, the majority
Well,
of people are or at least more than half are below that average price. And so that seems to be normal, right? Most people are kind of in, if you look at the bell curve, most people are buying, let's say, at that 400 to 500 range.
I think
Hmm.
that is a sweet spot for the investor because it's like what a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, perfect for rental, right? So more affordable for family to rent. I mean, if you're going in the 500,000 or above, you're gonna have a harder time to find a rental, and you want to make sure someone you put in there are, I don't know, like clean. But if you're going for the more lower, it's it's you're not too picky on who's going in there.
Right. You want to at least make sure the rent covers the mortgage for the time being. So yeah, I think that I have an investor that I'm working with, and we're looking in that 350 range.
Hmm.
So
That's a sweet spot
yeah.
for them. So that's yeah. That I mean, it just basically, it's investor time right now. They're coming out, and that is their sweet spot. So if you're looking at that price range, you're basically competing with these investors, and a lot of them are cash buyer.
So
Right,
that
because they're
brings up a
pulling
good
up.
question.
Yeah.
What what are you seeing in terms of buyers and affordability? Is it that $450,000 that they're really clamoring at? Oh, and on top of that, when they get qualified, what is the reality? Are they are they able to get into that 450 house, or is it that they have to settle for say 375 or 380 or 400?
Well, for me, I have to push them out a little bit further where investors are not looking at those areas. So they are able to touch that price range, except that
Hmm.
you can't go into where there's like a lot of jobs available because that's where the investor are buying these investment property is where they can rent out to young professional, right? So if you're competing for the same area and the same price, you're not going to win. So if you're competing for the same price, but maybe move out a little further out where these investors are not going to go because they're having a harder time to find renter in there, I mean, I've been doing pretty good with that, and I'm able to still get sellers concessions because we're the only one that's looking out there right now. So in those type,
So
if you're willing and prepare your buyer, say, hey, you know what, you're not going to win in this landfill. You have to maybe kind of move out a little bit because you're competing with cash buyer.
and what cities are the cities that people are going out to? Like how far are they going out?
So I am going to Maricopa. It's a little out there, but a lot of these people, if you're a remote worker, you work from home. I mean, remote worker are still a thing right now. And if you're willing to, and it's newer, so here's the thing, they want newer home. They want that price range. They want big, right? So, I mean, you have to give something up. So it's all about educating your buyer, and you can't just say, hey, you basically have to give something up. You can't because for that price range, there's no way you're going to get like the convenience of everything.
Yeah, I mean,
So
you could be even like you said, as far out like even Florence, um, Casa Grande. You're gonna like you said, you're sacrificing something. Hopefully, at this, when you look outside the city, you are more remote because otherwise you have to factor in gas prices, the wear and tear on the vehicle, unexpected maintenance. I mean, we know everybody drives crazy on the road, so you're bound to get a broken windshield or maybe the occasional fender bender that just brings the cost of just daily life brings it higher.
So, in my experience, so for my clients, a lot of my clients are out of state. So they know that they want to come to Arizona. So they don't have a job yet or anything like that. So I would prepare them, hey, this is going to be the area you want to live in because this is the good area, right? Um, that is in your price range. And that's where they're going to start looking for a job. So I actually have one coming out, actually in 2 weeks. So, but he's coming out to buy a business. So what I did, I showed him a couple different area, city, and so he's basically we settled in Peoria. So he's going to try to get a job in Peoria, and we're so that's what you have to do. And Peoria is still a good price out there. It's not new, but he want big.
So the job makeup is also a big factor here because Phoenix has been fairly robust,
Mhm.
particularly since the CHIPS Act was announced. We've had a lot of new development in terms of chip fabrication plants going up. Intel have the new foundry going next to their existing one in Chandler. And then, of course, the big story is Taiwan Semiconductor going in up in North
Right.
Phoenix. And they announced not just one, but two. Last year, I think the second facility was announced. So that's going to add to the already, well over 10,000 jobs that are supposedly going to create. Um, Peoria is really on a roll, isn't it? And you were just mentioning Peoria. Do we have numbers for average home prices in these areas, Kevin? Like Peoria, say, versus Maricopa?
Okay, so
Um,
Peoria for just the price range that I'm looking at for just for my price range. I'm not looking at the data that Kevin is looking at, but like I said, Maricopa is a lot cheaper in the 300 to
mhm.
400, right? So my guy is looking in the 500. So because it's closer to, convenience, Glendale and stuff like that, it's a little bit higher than the normal, the average price range that we're talking
But you're closer to
about.
the urban core, closer to
Yeah, so
jobs.
so
Yeah.
yeah. And I also maybe kind of put it out there too, the reason why that work if my clients are moving from different state is all you need, guys, is an offer letter and you could get a loan. So that's all you need. So that's why I said just come out here, find a job. You need that
Mhm.
offer letter, grab that offer letter, we can get you pre-approved.
Let me piggyback on that. Saray is absolutely correct. It does depend on the type of job, of course.
Yeah.
There's a lot less questions asked if you have a job offer that is salary. So if you're walking into a
Right.
salary position, just have to show us that letter. If it's a hourly wage, there's a little more math behind that, and it's not so clear cut. But you can send your loan officer those calculations. We, of course, do them here at Barrett Financial, and we can let what that looks like. So a lot of Amazon, workers that might be staying with Amazon from one location to the next, they face this situation, right? Because they're hourly wage workers and they want to know if they're going to be able to get into that home in their new designated area. Um, so kind of back to this, the impact of this Taiwan Semiconductor plant. Peoria has always been kind of this. Oriented toward the golf course living, and there's
Yeah.
always been little larger homes up there anyway. Uh, what does that look like now with, let's say, the home developments that I recently visited, such as Alora Vita, which is
Beautiful.
exploring its beautiful development, a lot of new restaurants, cafes, things like that. I think we're just starting, to be frank, because a lot hasn't been built, but you can clearly see the dirt being graded. They're preparing for a lot of volume, consumer volume. What what are the numbers there, Kevin? Do you have the average for Peoria?
Yeah. What would you like? The average,
I
the
I guess what's the average home price up there currently?
the median sales price I pulled up um, was for Peoria is a little over 500. Let me get back to that.
Yeah.
It is at 500. Median home price
Mhm.
for June is 502,000,
Okay,
and in Maricopa, it's a whole lot less than that. We are in
Three,
the
right?
360s.
See, that's why I
So
was
you're
360
saying
for
almost
Maricopa.
Yeah, so you're almost 150 cheaper. And I mean, if you hang out in Maricopa for about 5, 10 years, the city's going to swallow you up anyways. You're not going to be out there anymore. It's
well, remember the new development there. What is it? Blossom. Oh my God, what is it called? Rose Blossom, Blossom Rose. It's supposed to be amazing.
yeah,
So
yeah. So
uh, it's
you just got to
growing.
hang out for a little bit, and then you're going to have a lot more creature comforts nearby. You're still going to have access to
Hmm.
the highways. But yeah, you're starting off 140,000 cheaper.
That
And that,
infill takes a little while, doesn't it? And it could be, I mean, we're out here in Verrado, and it's a nice community, but we were called the island forever because
Hmm.
there was just nothing out here. And it took, I mean, this development's
10
already
years.
20 years old. Um, yeah, it 20 for people who moved in here at the beginning.
mhm. Yeah,
And if
had we not had 2008, you'd be a lot further along.
you would be a lot further along, that's right. These little economic hiccups can get in the way.
Hmm.
And that a lot of people are fearful of that on the horizon, but I'm looking at these like the Peorias, the Chandlers. They seem to be a little more robust because of that job growth. And so Peoria, you said, is a little it's cut above, and
Hmm.
I
Well,
predict that that's going to be stronger even going forward once all those workers start to come into town, all those engineers and supporting engineering positions. And then all the grocery stores and the convenience stores and all the shops that's going to follow. It's going to be a lot higher, I think, this time next year, even if we have a little bit of an economic bump.
so when I went out to go visit the model homes, before before the semiconductor place was open, a lot of the homes were not good quality. I mean, not saying that it's bad quality, but it was more like, the average home. And the last time we went out was like, what, a couple days ago? And they had like really nice upscale home, like just the door itself probably cost what, $5,000, $6,000, just a door on the front door.
Like a
Um,
big iron door.
Yeah.
Big iron door, nice quality, very luxurious. Yeah, it's beautiful. So I think the price of Peoria, if you can jump in, I would say, get something now. It might look expensive now, but I think the price is just going to continue to going up. I think the starting was like what was 600 to 800. That was the starting
So
home for one of the model home that we were looking at.
Shea Homes in Alora Vita, and I think it's called the I don't remember the exact name of the home model line, but you're right. They were kind of higher end, and they were like I think they're 800 to 1.2 million. So you're getting
Hmm.
the iron door,
That's
you're getting a very
Peoria, guys.
modern
Remember?
look. That is Peoria, and obviously the market needs to support that. You're not
Hmm.
finding those kind of homes in Buckeye, not deep Buckeye at least. You might find them in certain developments, but it's rare, and you're probably not finding that home in Maricopa. Um, and there's nice homes in these communities, but there's a lot of these types of kind of higher end, homes going in Peoria because I think they're preparing for that kind of consumer. So if you're looking at that, say $500,000 to $750,000 range, there's going to be a lot more in Peoria. If you're looking at that, say 350 to 500 range, yeah, you're going to the Maricopas and the Buckeyes. There's a lot more of that out there, and they're good
Well,
homes,
and
but
I
they're fairly standard, what you would expect a 3 or 4 2, and you're going to get your great carpet. You might be able to find a resale home that has a few upgrades, but you're not getting a lot of the fancy bells and whistles until you start spending $500,000 or more.
And you're not competing with investor at that price range. They're not buying those because they
Right?
can't rent those
You
out.
get into a new class of buyer, right? So the investors probably stop at, I'm guessing, that 500, maybe 600 mark because your mortgage payment. Let's just take mortgage rates today. Conventional is at about 7%. And if you're buying a home at let's say 560,000, something like that, and if you are putting a 20% down payment, your payment is still around 3,500 bucks, right? Um, but let's just say your home price is 350. I'm just putting this in the calculator now, just so you follow along.
Hmm.
It is $1,000 less. Your total monthly payment is going to be around 2,400. That now the assumptions are that you have a property tax roughly of about 3,600 bucks a year, and insurance is probably going to be about 150. That's a little on the higher end. Rates have gone up, so it's probably not too far off. And your HOA is about $100. That's about average in Phoenix now. 2,500 bucks. If you can swing that, and if your household income is say 80 to 100,000, yeah, you can get into that 350 to $400,000 home in the summer of 2024. But as soon as you step it up to that $550,000 home, it's a real stretch because typically those debt to income ratios start to get real sketchy for lenders, once you get past 40, 45%. And if you go FHA, I'm not going to get into the government loans too much, but you got a different set of issues there, right? Might have a lower down payment, but typically your mortgage insurance premium is there, might lift your total overall payment up a little bit. And FHA has a lower loan limit than conventional. So you may be out of range for that FHA. But you're looking at $1,000 difference either way. And that's significant for a lot of families today.
Oh yeah, so I have a guy that just finished building his house, so it's took a year, and so he actually finally got it done, and then his job is moving him, so he haven't lived in the house yet, but he got all the bells and whistle for it and everything, and he's paying about close to $5,000 for a three-bedroom house, right? And he's trying to rent it out. And I'm like, there's no way I could rent your house out for 5 grand. There's nobody is gonna, it's brand new. Like, yeah, I can't, no, people don't care if it's brand new because it's a rental,
So let me come
it's
to
just,
rent.
it's a temp.
We're going to get to rentals, Saray, by the way, because I do want to come to rentals, but I want to stay on this kind of like the markets that people are willing to drive to and that are affordable. So let us say you are coming from another state, moving to the Phoenix area because of an engineering job, and you're going to either Chandler or you're going to Peoria, okay? And there might be those jobs in Scottsdale, but you're probably going to find those opportunities in one of those two cities. It's going to be Intel in Chandler, or it's going to be Taiwan Semiconductor in Peoria or Northern Phoenix.
Hmm.
Um, how difficult is it to get from Maricopa to that Intel location? And how difficult is it to get from, say, Buckeye, maybe Southern Surprise in the West Valley, over to that Northern Phoenix area, where the 17 hits the 303, which is exactly where Taiwan Semiconductor is? How difficult
Well,
is that scenario? Are those two scenarios?
so are we doing a scale from 1 to 10
Yeah,
scale?
sure. Let's do that. Let's do a scale of like, one is really terrible, 10 is the best. In terms of quality of life, in terms of gasoline, spend your time on the road, all those things that you're going to be looking at.
Well, actually, you know what? It depends on how you looked at it. Because I know a couple people when I used to work in Scottsdale, and I would drive from Buckeye to Scottsdale. People actually use that time as their a me time. So
Yep.
they don't mind the drive. So they like, oh, I like my 2 hour drive because that's my me time. That's my meditation time. So it really depends on who you ask, right? And there's people that have been doing it for like 20 years, driving 2 hours there and 2 hours
Mhm.
back, 4 hours a day, and they love it. But I guess you're asking the average
Yeah,
people,
take the first
probably.
scenario that I kind of described there. Like, just take, say,
For
getting
me,
back and
that
forth from Maricopa to Chandler. And frankly,
America,
Intel is on that southwestern portion of Chandler, so it's not
Mhm.
as
it's
terrible
not
as if you had to
bad. No,
go
I
to
would
Gilbert
say,
or
well,
Deep Chandler. So
mm-mm.
but still, Maricopa is like one way in, one way out, it seems like.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
How
but
looking
it's
terrible is
not
at
that?
bad.
what, the
I would,
347 is what it is.
Yeah, John Wayne Highway. Yeah.
well, I don't think it's bad. I think it's probably maybe a four for me because it's closer to
Mhm.
one is good, right? So I would say
No,
four.
no. Let's say one worst, 10 best.
Oh, I would say a eight then.
An 8 out of 10. Okay, so that's not terrible, right? Um,
No, but
Kevin, what do you
but
think? Yeah.
I mean, I honestly, I would have to agree because the way Phoenix is so spread out. I believe we have a great highway system. There's just a lot of people on the road, so there's always traffic, and that's the biggest thing that adds to the drive. I've known people have lived in Tempe driving to Anthem, and
mhm,
I mean, it's an hour if traffic is perfect. They don't mind it. They've been doing that 10, 15 years. So I think
mhm,
coming to Phoenix, you just need to help clients understand, out of state clients understand, you're going to be driving. Everything is going to be 30 to 45 minutes. unless you live literally right next to the building. Um, I mean, for everything I do with my children, it's a half an hour drive everywhere I go. Baseball practice, dance classes, school, it's all half an
Hmm.
hour. So
Good point.
I, I don't think you can get around a decent commute time in the city of Phoenix right now.
Okay, so let's take the second scenario,
Yeah,
which I think is going to be common as well here, particularly here in the next few years as these foundries, these chip makers come online. Um, Getting from say the 303, Buckeye, Waddell, Surprise area, getting over to TSMC in Northern Phoenix. What is that? 1 to 10.
that's a 10. That's the absolutely best drive in the world.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
Um,
yeah,
we just
there's
went
no
to
traffic.
Sedona. No, we just went to Sedona last week. Um, the only traffic you have to avoid is the 303, people exiting at Bell Road and people exiting at Grand, Highway 60. But
Hmm.
other than that, the 303 is straight through. And I did notice, I haven't been on there in months, they got two new exit ramps. I think 51st
Hmm.
Avenue and something around there. I don't remember for sure. So that even helps people get access to the 303. But the 303 is great. If you go less than 80 miles an hour, you're going to get ran over. Just understand that.
It's fast, yeah. We've been on the
Yeah.
303 quite a bit, and it's a fast highway now for sure.
So the merging lane or the exit lane now they're adding extra lane for like almost even down here in the 101. There used to be only be one lane to be exiting out to from 10 to 101. There's like three now. So
Right.
they're preparing for the growth.
Yeah.
So
So
if you're from Buckeye, and that's a little more of a drive, right? I mean, we're not looking at 20 or 30 minutes from Buckeye, where there's the affordability for homes. You're like you
Hmm.
said, 350 to 400. You're getting a nice home in Buckeye. It's decent
hmm.
and it's a good starter home. Uh, you said it's a 10 out of 10. Is that chain? I mean, that's a little longer drive. What is that? How long is that? Is that about 40 minutes, 45 minutes?
Yeah, I would say it's about 45, but you're not
It's
dealing with
straight
the.
and quick.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
straight. There's only a couple areas that you're going to run into a slight slowdown. I still don't think I've ever gone under 60 on the 303, even during traffic hours, rush hour traffic hours. So yeah, you get a little bit longer drive, but there's a whole lot less stress. You listen to your podcast, listen to your music, you shed the stress of your day, you get home ready to go.
Hmm. Hmm. So for Buckeye, I actually found some stuff that are under 300. So they are stuff like in the 290, 280, by the way, and they're new.
Hmm.
So if you want new home, start a home, young family, Buckeye is perfect.
So just so everybody knows, let's say you're looking at a $300,000 home at, let's say you're going FHA at say 6.5% interest rate, and um, you've saved enough, at least for the minimum of 3.5% down. Your payment's going to be 1830. That's really reasonable in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Very reasonable. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just principal and interest, mind you. Taxes aren't terrible yet here in Buckeye, and the
Under 1,000 a
HOAs
year.
are still about 80 to 100 bucks. Insurance rates have gone up for everybody, but your payment's going to be about 2,500 and maybe 2,600, somewhere in that range. And if you got an income, household income of, let's say 80 to 100,000, you're getting into that home. So
Hmm.
when people say that Phoenix has kind of reached California prices, and it has in many respects, there's still a lot of affordability compared to California, where there isn't a whole lot of affordability. You have to go way out there in California to where it doesn't make
Well,
sense to commute. But in Phoenix, it's still very doable.
so if there is affordability, same price, if you're pricing the California house and Arizona house, it could be the same price, same square footage and everything, but ours is new and they're like 1950, 1940s.
Yep.
So that's the reason why. Do you remember I had those four girls that came from California? That's the reason what they're saying. They're like, hey, I could afford it, but it's like 1950. I don't want to, over 100 years old houses. Where you come here for the same price, it's like brand new and it's under warranty, right?
Hmm.
So remember, under 1978, there's lead painting. So, and if
Right.
you're just a uh, new family, and actually, here's the funny thing. I actually got a client from California that doesn't know about lead paint. So his house, because I'm selling his house in California, and his house is 1940. And I told him that we might have to do a lead paint exam inspection. He's like, "What is that?" And so when I told him, what it is, he got quiet because he had a baby in the house. So what
Hmm.
people don't know is that when you live in an older house that are younger than 1978, those paints can delay the development of your child. So it doesn't affect adults as much, but kids, it could, all sorts of things. Health
So
hazard to them, their development.
true. That I think
Yeah.
those are some of the advantages for buying a new home for sure. And I can attest from being a California migrant, to Arizona. I'm one of those. Having been born and raised in California and spent pretty much all my adult life there. That the homes, there's nice new homes there too in California, and there's a lot of
But
development there going up.
it's
But
going to cost
you're
you an
not
arm to get
really
it.
you're really paying for those upscale features. And the HOAs in California, I feel, don't do nearly as much as the HOAs do here in Phoenix. You're getting a lot more for your money. You're getting lakes and water features. You're getting some really nice
Hmm.
parks. You're
Yeah.
getting clubhouses, pickleball courts,
Oh,
basketball
yeah.
courts, running trails. So there's a whole lot more, I think, that you're getting when you move to a master plan community, in
Hmm.
the Phoenix area.
Yeah, for sure.
Let me shift gears here because we wanted to cover what the rental market is doing and how that might be affecting home buying and home selling. So, and this is I'm pulling a lot of my data, guys, from the Arizona Regional Listing Service, also known as ARMLS. And they're usually a quarter behind. So this is from April 2024. But the average lease price was $2,292, so about 2,300 bucks.
Hmm.
And Kevin, I know you're looking at June numbers.
Hmm.
You know, please update that number if you have it in front of you. But from what I've been hearing from realtors is that lease prices have been going down, have been declining,
Yes.
and that
Yes.
may be competing with potential buyers. What is your experience? What have you been noticing in the rent versus buy market?
Um,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I mean, it's just kind of tough all around. I'm looking right now, and the average, the moving average, is at $1.36 per square foot. But at the end of the day, a renter is going to look at what they can physically afford. Can they afford a $2,000 rent? Can they afford $2,500? Their bank account doesn't get any better just because they want that nicer home. So it just depends on each individual and what the requirements are to get in. Because if you got a 2,000 rent and then they want you to make three times that price, that's really restrictive for some families. You definitely, in some areas, you definitely need two incomes. Um, and then, I mean, I think about in my situation, I have young kids. If my wife worked, she's only going to work to pay daycare. She's not going to contribute to the bills very much. She'll be able to get some groceries, but groceries are even expensive. So it really just depends on what their individual situation is and what they can actually afford.
Ray, what were you noticing in the rent versus buy market? Because I know you
Well,
have
since I
some
am,
lease agreements going on right now with some clients.
so I'm also a property manager, and so I have some house that I'm putting up for rent, and it's it's their income, like
Mm-hmm.
Kevin is saying, and a lot of them are trying to fudge their income, but yeah, I have a lot of one of them, like for example, like really funny. Uh, we asked for offer letter because she said that she's getting a job and she's going to start work. She actually took a snapshot of an application that she was did on the computer as her offer letter. So it's tough. So I haven't. I mean, we got lots of applications, but a lot of them are, like Kevin said, their income is not matching that. So I think that's also the reason why a lot of them can't buy a house. They're squeezing, it's hard. And I know they're good people, but at the same time, I can't let them in, you know? Um,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just looking at a dollar 36 a square foot for renting the median average for an 1,800 square foot house, you're at $2,400. So right there, that takes a lot of people out that that's just a struggle. Then if you have groceries on top, well, everybody has
mhm.
groceries on top of that. So, yeah, I'm not surprised you're getting the creative applications. They're including people from out of state probably as their income, just trying to get in. They can afford it physically, but on paper with the requirements, they don't qualify.
But you would
And
have to
just to
take
compare that
chances on
to
them.
a single family purchase,
Hmm.
if you may be able to get 1,800 square feet for 350,000, like we were talking about in the Buckeyes and the Maricopas, that's probably reasonable. I would predict you're seeing more like the 1,200 to 1,500 square feet. But let's say
Yeah,
you find something in one of those two cities at for 350,000, 1,800 square feet, 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath. Your payment, total payment, this is principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and HOA. The total is going to be about 2,950, and you're really deciding at that point as a rent versus buy consumer, hey, ownership for about $500 more. Um, I think most people are going to choose ownership at that point. So buying really does make more sense at this particular point in time. I think the
yeah,
big question most people have to ask at that point is, do I want to live in Maricopa or Buckeye, Arizona? Because as we just demonstrated, it isn't that bad to get to some of those really good job centers, such as
Mhm.
Peoria or Maricopa. Uh, Maybe getting into downtown Phoenix might be a little bit of a pain. Or if you're coming from the West Valley and have to go on to the opposite side of town, that's certainly a pain. But
Yeah.
frankly, there's a lot of
No,
opportunity for lifestyle, have that home and that job here in Phoenix.
yeah, and I don't think anybody really wants to get into downtown Phoenix in the middle of rush hour. Nobody wants to do
It's,
that.
I think it's only for work.
Yeah.
And let me jump onto that because I actually had to do a math for someone. So remember, when you're renting, you have to do the security deposit, the first month rent, your application fee, and if you have pets, right? Pets are like at least $500 per pet security deposit. You
Yeah.
have your cleaning fee. So those actually add up to almost over $5,000, right? To move
Mm.
into a rental. Now get this, we got someone into their own home with only 2 grand out of pocket because with the down payment assistance and the seller's concessions, $2,000 out of pocket to move into their own home with their own name. So
Yeah.
think about that. So if you want to move and you're thinking about renting versus buy, remember it's a possibility that buying is a lot cheaper, even like upfront money, if you're getting that down payment assistance and the seller's concessions.
Which, by the way, we covered down payment assistance, um, in our last episode, which for the subscribers and viewers out there will be going live this Monday. So that's going to be our next episode. We typically meet up, about 2 weeks ahead of time. That way we can do our edits and, kind of polish up our videos. But you will be getting, you'll have already seen the DPA video by the time you see us here. And DPA, I want to talk about that real quick, Sorry. So DPA is really might be the determining factor because there's so much money out there right now, both in the
Oh my
conventional
God.
side and FHA
And
to
no
help you
requirement,
cover.
really.
Right. The requirements are just the program guidelines, whether it's like say Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or some of the government programs such as FHA. Um, really, they're going to cover closing costs on some of them. They're going to cover down payment on some of them, or a combination of both. You could actually get into a home these days virtually with nothing out of pocket if you have a generous seller who might be willing to give you a little something. Now, having said that, there's a whole new variable in the mix now with the NAR lawsuit and the fallout of that, where the seller isn't obligated to cover the buyer's commission or fee for that transaction anymore, and so they could say no. But I have been getting feedback that actually sellers are still willing to give something because they want to sell their home as much as you want to buy it. And in some cases, sellers, they may want to sell, a lot more. So there are a few markets here, such as Buckeyes and the Maricopas, where, sellers are definitely willing to concede and give some money to you in forms of credit.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
So that kind.
Saray, do you have anything left you wanted to mention or add?
No, I think we're good.
Kevin, did you have any last minute comments or alibis?
No, I could talk about this all day long.
All right. So,
Um,
yeah, thanks
I
for
do have.
discussing, guys. That's a
Let me get
wrap.
one quick
Kevin has
question if
something.
I could.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah. Okay. So on that down payment assistance, I have a lot of people that are seeing how the market is going and are interested in possibly starting investing. So does the DPA go towards investors or just the primary residents?
DPA is only for primary home purchase only.
Gotcha. That's kind of what I thought was going on, because you don't want to just give it away to everybody and then you have the same competitive market boxing out individual homeowners, home buyers.
Correct. Investors are penalized, in terms of interest rate and
Hmm.
down payment, if you want to call them penalties. I mean, we have, in relative terms, American mortgage market is amazing. Like we have the greatest mortgage market in the world by far. Few places in the world allow you to put 5% down as a standard or 3.5% down through a government program. There isn't a lot of that in the world. So, in relative terms, to say what you see in the American mortgage market, investors do pay a little more to get into a home than a
Yeah,
primary
of
home
course.
purchaser. So you have to come in, say, as an investor with, at least 15, maybe 20% down. You're probably going to pay a little higher interest rate
Right,
um,
right, right.
versus, say, if you're buying as your primary home. So the
Yep.
government really wants to incentivize primary home buyers.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Thank you.
You bet. Okay, that's a wrap, folks. Reach out to us if you want to know more about the Phoenix real estate market, or if you have questions about buying or selling a home. We've got two great and illustrious realtors right here that you can find their contact information below. And lastly, please don't forget to click the like button and subscribe. Until next time, take care.
Smash. Thumbs up.